So I read for a week. Things happened. Hi guys, it's April, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts for everything that I read during the 2020 reading rush. I have daily vlogs spanning the whole week, so if you want to go back and watch those and get more detailed thoughts about each of these reads, I pretty much step by step, as I hit stopping points, told you what I was feeling as I was reading these certain things. And some of these books were anthologies and series, so I go more into detail into each separate story and each separate volume. But here, I'm just gonna give you a brief overview, tell you what I finished, tell you what challenges I got, show you what badges that happen to associate with some of those things, and generally just let you know how the week went. For this round of the reading rush, I decided I was going to try and read 7 different books. I managed to read 9 books, all of which were from my TBR and then a few extra. And for the span of the week, it ended up being 2,715 pages. I think I beat last year's record, which I believe was somewhere in the lower 2,000s. And my daily page breakdown was kind of interesting. I started out high and I kind of dipped and I came back and then I dipped and then I hit really high and then I just I'm done. That tends to be how I do readathons, is I push really hard at the beginning and then by the end I'm like, why am I reading this much? Why am I trying to make videos every day? Who has this kind of time? Because if you do, you are superhuman and I am in awe of you. Because I always have such high hopes. I'm so excited about starting these reading vlogs, going on the journey of reading all these books as much as possible. And then by midweek, I'm about ready to crash. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Any of you guys who participated in the reading rush, tell me how your mood kind of goes with these kind of readathons. Sometimes I wonder if a week is too long and the shorter readathons that are 3 or so days, they feel a lot better, because I think pushing yourself go for 7 days is kind of rough, but 2, 3, possibly 4 days I think is a sweet spot. But that's enough blabbering on. I am going to talk about the books that I finished. The first book I finished is an anthology called The Book of Dragons, which was edited by Jonathan Strahan. This was a collection of 30 poems and short stories all about dragons. It featured a lot of authors that I really truly enjoy. You had Seanan McGuire, you had Peter S. Beagle, you had Garth Nix, and a whole bunch of others. There were 30 different people who wrote things for this. I really enjoyed this anthology, and it's probably because I really enjoyed dragons. There was some stories that didn't quite hit the mark, but there were some stories that really hit home for me. Now, I'm not a huge poem person, so I didn't really jive with the poems that were in this collection. It was nice to have them break up and you almost had the stories in sections, because this spanned dragon lore that hit things in the future, that hit space travel, that hit the past, that had dragons that were humans, that had dragons that were beasts, and it just covered all of the different corners of the dragon mythos, and I enjoy that so much. The next thing I finished is actually 3 volumes of Honey So Sweet. This is volumes 6, 7, and 8, and this completes the Honey So Sweet series. This is the story about a young couple who are blossoming into their relationship. They are very new to even having a partner of any kind. They are very bad at social interacting. They are both learning how to be human, how to love, how to just enjoy life, and they're learning it all together. It is so cute. This couple is just the purest thing you have ever read, and it was quite enjoyable. The last volume sort of wrapped things up and gave the side characters some of their own happy endings, which was cute to see. I also picked up Break My Heart 1,000 Times by Daniel Waters. This is the book that the movie I Still See You is based off of. This is the story about humans dealing with seeing ghosts every day after this massive event. Nobody knows what this event is, but something big happened and it wiped out a large part of the human populace. They estimate somewhere between 1 million and 4 million. Big gap there, but things just went a little haywire. But now, 7 to 10 years later, people are getting used to seeing ghosts everywhere. There's some debate on what these ghosts actually are, if they're just memories, if they're sentients, if they're going to fade away, or what's going on with them. The story focuses mostly on a girl named Veronica, who suddenly meets a ghost in her bathroom that hasn't been showing up before, and then this great big mystery starts to unravel around this ghost. I enjoyed this book so much. This is the type of book I enjoy reading. It's a mix between horror and thriller, but it has this ghost lore in it that I like, that's all about figuring out what ghosts are, seeing ghosts, figuring out their backstory, that kind of thing, which I truly enjoy. Now, comparing the book to the movie, they're completely different things. The movie has more of a thriller type aspect, where in the book you get more of this horror type aspect. There are different things that you are trying to figure out in each of them, so they almost feel like their own entity. I am glad that I saw the movie before I ever read the book, because the things that the movie is slowly feeding out to you, you immediately get at the beginning of the book. So if I had read the book, the movie wouldn't have been as exciting as it was. And so I am glad that I read it in that order. This is a book that I do plan on getting in my physical library because I enjoyed it that much. I also picked up A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. This is Shay and my book club book pick for the Tell It Again book club for the month of July. This is an Alice in Wonderland inspired retelling. It's the story of Alice, who is a young girl who ends up starting to fight nightmares. It has the feel of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in that aspect, and it also references a lot of geek and nerd culture, which I really enjoyed. It takes Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, and it takes the elements of that world and twists it up into its own little universe, which is nice to see. Shay and I did a live show where we discussed this book, so if you don't mind spoilers, you can go check that out. And while I did enjoy some aspects of this book, some of the Alice in Wonderland aspects of the story were a little too heavy-handed for my taste, and I wanted to know some of these characters better because they weren't quite established enough for some of the major events to actually have any impact on me. I don't know if I'm going to continue on in this series or not. It might be one of those things that if the books land in my lap for some reason, probably read them, but I'm probably not going to go looking for them. And then the last book on my actual TBR when I started this readathon was the third omnibus of Alice in the Country of Hearts. This is volume 5 and 6 of the Alice in the Country of Hearts series. It is also the conclusion of this section of Alice's story in Wonderland. This is another retelling where Alice is kidnapped by the White Rabbit, dropped off in Wonderland. Now she slowly has to interact with the inhabitants so that she can eventually go home. While I really enjoyed the story going on here, there was a lot of things that I really liked seeing and trying to piece together. Unfortunately, a lot of those things that were pulling me along in the story were never answered at the end of this. And so I am left in a state of confusion and unsureness of what I just got myself into. There were a lot of things about the characters in Wonderland and the whole dynamic between all of them that I was trying to piece together and couldn't really figure out, and I was hoping I was going to get some answers. It didn't happen. And then there is some of Alice's backstory that was hinted at and some of the connections of Wonderland that was in her past that we didn't ever get to see that showed up kind of, but once again, we didn't get a serious or full answer at all. So I am a little frustrated with this. I do have Alice in the Country of Clover. From what I know of that series, it's kind of more of a spin-off, possibly alternate universe kind of deal where Alice is dealing with a whole different group of beings with some of the same beings. I don't know. Like I said, this whole thing is really confusing, and I don't know if it's because of how it was translated or what we're missing in the non-translated stuff. If there's non-translated stuff, there's a whole confusing world in all of this that I still need to figure out. And then I had 2 extra reads that I just threw on to the end of this readathon because I still had time. And the first one was Cinderella is Dead by Bayron. This is the story of what happens after Cinderella has been dead for 200 or so odd years. Things are not right in the kingdom. Women are suppressed. They always have to go to this ball. And if they aren't picked as wives, society doesn't value them. A lot of them tend to go missing, and Sophia doesn't fit into the mold that society seems to want women to fit into. In fact, she's very much in love with her best friend, Erin. This book was a hard one for me to read because of what was done with the Cinderella story. some of the characters didn't quite get enough development for me to understand where they were coming from and why they were that way. Sophia was very, very abrasive. She had this selfish streak that almost alienated her from her parents and from her girlfriend in a way that was very uncomfortable to watch, because she was constantly pushing them and claiming that they were selfish, where she at the same time was very selfish because she was all focused on her own happiness at the same time, not really paying attention to how her actions were affecting everybody around her. But then in the middle of the story, all of a sudden she almost switches into this different character because a new character is introduced that becomes what she used to be in the story. And I get what the story is trying to say about pushing for change so that we all can be who we want to be. I just feel like this story was told more with a hammer than by weaving me a tapestry that I could enjoy and connect to and come back to and really, really digest. So it's safe to say it wasn't my favorite. There were aspects that I liked, but then I really, really struggled to get into most of the story because I just was fighting Sophia and everything that was going on and understanding characters. And the last story I read was a short little sweet novella by Gail Carriger called Meet Cute, which is the precursor to the Soulless series, in which Alexa and Lord Wolsey meet for the first time, and there are hedgehogs. So if you've ever read the Soulless series, or if you plan on reading the Soulless series, there is a little 1 or 2 line section that mentions the fact that these two characters had met once before over a hedgehog incident. And you don't really get what that hedgehog incident is within the Soulless series itself, but in this little novella, we get to see that, and it is by far the cutest thing I have read during this readathon. I loved it simply because it started to connect the Finishing School series to the Soulless series, and the fact that a lot of things were put into play that integrate in between all 3 series that are set in this universe. And I enjoy when authors do that. So if you've read any of the Soulless series or the Custard Protocol series or the Finishing School series, I highly recommend that you pick up this novella because it is just perfect. So those are the books that I read for the reading rush for 2020. It was a week. Let me know down below if you participated in the reading rush and what you read. And of course, if you would like to stay up to date with every time I upload, subscribe, and I heard your beautiful faces. Bye.